So we're doing a series of these, as you know, and the first one we did a while ago was on Asia. We have, again, thanks to the province of Ontario, we have persons who are working with us in 3 markets. One in Taiwan, whom you met at our last session, Carolyn Chia. Another in Los Angeles, Joel High, and of course Rebecca Rinks, his partner at Creative Control, whom we hope you'll meet if you come to a session later on this year on Los Angeles and the film market. And finally, Shane Shapiro, who works with us out of the United Kingdom. Now, Shane is not a stranger to Toronto. He was born here. He moved to the United Kingdom, what, about 8 years ago? 7 years ago, where he's worked in the music business. So he's, as we say, he's an expat Canadian working in Britain. We should have more there. They're very useful, very supportive. And about 2 years ago, I got what I thought was a crank call from a fellow who volunteered to work with us at PopCom on our stand as a representative and a helper for Canadian bands, and claimed to have a lot of knowledge of the UK and European scene. I was, of course, very skeptical because we get these calls all the time from escaped lunatics. So, you know, and especially in the music business, because that's 90% of the people in the business. And I'm kidding, but you know, so we took this seriously, and we asked this fellow to come and help us. So Shane showed up at the PopCom stand in 2008. Yeah. We had a great PopCom that year. 33 Canadian bands showcased at PopCom. We had a great stand. I think we had over 20 companies on the stand. I know, Helen, you were there. And Shane was of great service and showed a real knowledge of the European and UK industry, especially at the level of the bands who were active and playing in the industry at the time. So are you going to say more about yourself, or shall I?
Keep going.
Okay. And he has since worked for one of the largest independent labels in the UK, One Little Indian, as a publicist. Worked extensively with the UK music press on a number of different assignments, and continues to do so today. So I won't say much more about Shane. I just wanted to establish that he had his foot in both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. So the format today is going to be that Shane will present, and then we're going to turn the floor to Al Mayer, who's going to present his panel. We're going to discuss issues related to their experiences in the United Kingdom, and hopefully advise you, and we'll have a question and answer session, and then we'll have a little networking session at the end. You can introduce yourself to Shane and the various panelists, okay? So having said all that, let me present Shane Shapiro, our UK rep out of London. Thank you.
I don't think I need this because I have this. Can you hear me now? Oh, okay. Hi. Thank you for coming. Yeah, my name is Shane. I live in London. Some of you I've met before, and some of you I haven't, or we've been emailing. I've been in Europe about 7 years. That time's been split between the UK and Amsterdam and Holland, where I was studying, and I was the head of press at One Little Indian and Fat Cat Records. We did Bjork and Paul McCartney and Sigur Ros's stuff during that time. In addition to that, before that, I was a music journalist. I used to work at Drowned in Sound and Vice magazine. And what happened was I decided to take some holiday and go to Berlin, and PopCom was happening, so I volunteered my services, and now I'm here. So I've done this presentation a few times before, and this is just a general overview of what I found living and working in London. And I'm only going to focus, obviously, on the UK. I do work Europe-wide, but that's for a different session. Okay, so essentially I split it up into these sections, which I'm going to go into. So first, labels versus distribution. There's generally 2 different ways to license your product into the UK, whether it be licensing a product via a local label, whether that be an independent or a major, or taking the label that you have in Canada and getting a distribution deal with a physical distributor in the UK. Some physical distributors work Europe-wide, some are only in the UK. And there's strengths and weaknesses with both of them. Then there's marketing and promotion. Obviously, you have to make sure that all your boxes are ticked before you enter into any new market. That's very, very important, and there's no point in ever releasing product in a market unless you can support it, because you only have one chance to release your record, especially in the UK where new is very important. And I'll discuss that. The third point, and the most fun, in my opinion, is immigration, taxes, and copyright. I will explain all that stuff to you as best I possibly can. And then showcases and entry points. Mostly in any territory, it's really hard to make headway unless you're literally there and playing. And when you're in the UK, you're up against all these British bands that continually tour the market, or even the European bands. And we have to be as active as we possibly can, like in Canada. And lastly, moving forward, so I said brand building, what I can suggest that you do right now. So they're not the most beautifully designed slides. They get the point across, I promise. So first off, how do you seek out a licensing deal? Whether you are an independent label here in Canada, or whether you're just a band looking to license your own product, I always suggest to people that it's always best to align yourself with a label in Canada first before you start looking for labels outside, because a lot of funding is label-based. But most importantly, you have to do your research. You have to look at the bands that you respect and look at the bands that you admire, or the bands that you essentially want to aspire to be like from an infrastructural point of view, and research their labels. In the UK, obviously, there are the major labels, and the major labels all have various imprints. And all those imprints are managed by different people, and they all have different A&Rs. So you can't sort of look at Universal and say, I want to sign with Universal. Universal has many, many different labels under its scope, and they're all run by different people. So you sort of have to go a bit more specific when it comes to that. Like Polydor, for example, is one of them, or there's lots of them. In addition to that, when it comes to independents in the UK, there are the larger independents and the smaller independents. There are less and less larger independents, unfortunately, but there are some strong ones. The strongest one is the Beggars group of labels. So that includes 4AD, that's Rough Trade Records, Beggars, and all of those. And again, they're run by different people, and they're run out of different offices, and they're sort of run as independent companies. So you have to understand that, and you have to sort of see who they're signing and who they're looking at. And then there's labels like the one I used to work at, One Little Indian, and there's Full-Time Hobby and stuff like that. And then if you're looking into electronic music, if you're looking into folk and into metal, they all have their own labels and label structures as well. One thing about the UK is that there's many different music industries functioning at the same time, and they don't seem to ever communicate with each other. And it's a weird sort of thing, and I don't think it exists as much here. But the indie community and the folk community and the quote-unquote dance community and the metal community are completely different, and they work completely different from each other. I promise. There are different booking agents, there's different publicists, there's different publishers, there's different everybody. And there's, one of the biggest booking agencies in the UK, they're called Asgard. They book mostly folk artists. And a lot of people in the indie world who, for example, want to get into Enemy have never heard of them. So that's things. So is it better to seek out a distribution deal, a licensing deal or a distribution deal? First off, for the most part, most distributors won't sign single products that I've seen. There are obviously exceptions to the rule. In folk, Proper Records is a distributor, and it usually licenses product. It just licensed a Canadian artist last week, which is great. But for the most part, the distributors, for example, there is on the larger level, there's PAS, which stands for Play It Again Sam, and there's ADA, which is Alternative Distribution Alliance, which is Warner, I think, right? Yes, which is Warner, and they do not sign individual products very often. On occasion, PAS will. ADA, I don't think, does very often. There are smaller distributors as well, like Shell Shock, Code 7, and so on. I can help you provide a list. And again, it's doing your research and understanding that. Who are they signing? Who are they looking at? The smaller ones, oh, it's fine. There are some smaller ones that will do that. Cargo Records is one. Cargo records is a very small